Fellow students and teachers of the ACT, my name is Auntie Agnes Shea. I would like to begin by paying my respects to my ancestors, the Ngunnawal people, the traditional custodians of this land upon which we are meeting today. On behalf of the traditional custodians of the Ngunnawal people, I welcome you all.
In our law, it's important to announce who you are before you come somewhere, You can't just walk in and say, I'm such and such and this land's this now. It doesn't belong to you, It's important for us to understand that.
Ngunnawal country is a traditional definition of territory which has been inhabited for over 21,000 years and recognised as a meeting place for people from the ACT and surrounding regions.
I would like to thank the Department of Environment, Climate Change, Energy and Water, ACT Natural Resource Management Council, ACT Department of Education, the Parks Conservation and Lands for developing and delivering a valuable schools resource, one that connects us back to my ancestors' traditional way of life and brings about a better understanding of Aboriginal culture to the wider community.
To develop respect for traditional Aboriginal people, it is important to understand traditional knowledge and practices, roles, responsibilities and cultural protocols. For all children and for Aboriginal children in particular, coming to significant natural places helps to develop pride and build their sense of identity.
I hope that you gain a great deal from participating in this study and with strong heart enjoy and have fun. And now I'll just finish in the words of the Ngunnawal people, Ngana, Yarabai, Yangu, which means you're welcome to leave your footprints on our land.
The ACT Sustainable Schools Initiative assists schools to educate for sustainability in all aspects of school life. Over the years, we have developed a range of curriculum programs for ACT schools containing local information about waste, water, energy, biodiversity, and climate change. It has become evident that we also need to tell the story of our traditional Aboriginal landowners, the Ngunnawal. It is important that all children in the ACT, Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal, learn about the history, culture, spirituality, natural resource management practices, and the stories of the Ngunnawal people. Valuing this rich heritage will help all children to develop their own sense of identity and connection with the ACT as their country, their heritage, and their future.
What is natural resource management? Natural resources are the elements of land, water, plants and animals that occur within any given territory. Management of these resources is about maintaining quality and quantity and ensuring balance. Natural resource management refers to the practices which preserve the traditional balances with minimal intervention. This is achieved by using natural cycles and balancing plant and animal populations. The concept of natural resource management is similar to the concept of sustainable development. They both focus on maintaining and conserving rather than exploiting the land. People are our resources too, our farmers, our landowners, our rural and urban communities. Natural resource management is about striking a balance between caring for our environment and paying attention to the needs of people who make a living from these resources or who use them for leisure or recreation. Through this Aboriginal Natural Resource Management Schools Curriculum Program, the ACT Ngunnawal Aboriginal community would like to share understandings of how their ancestors used natural resources. The Ngunnawal people value and support the passing on of their knowledge and traditions as an important way of caring for our land and preserving culture.
In 1913, the Australian Capital Territory was proclaimed as a separate entity from New South Wales and pronounced the Capital Territory of Australia. This territory largely fell within Ngunnawal country. Ngunnawal country was defined by the language of the people inhabiting the land, not by lines clearly marked on a map. The borders of Ngunnawal country are generally believed to have covered the area from Yass to Burrawa through to Tumut, the highlands west of the Shoalhaven and back to Goulburn. This is an area of almost 11,000 square kilometres.
Ngunnawal country is a traditional definition of territory which has been inhabited for over 21,000 years and recognised as a meeting place for people from ACT and surrounding regions.
If you look at Canberra and some of the place names, you can see that, Canberra comes from the word Canberry. And Canberra were a clan group that lived over in the Belconnen area, the bottom of Mount Ainslie and over there. And then on towards that side of town, we had the Biology clan. They were the Pialigo people. That's what come with that, Pialigo. Then you move across and you got the Mulungalo clan. Now that place over there is named Mulungalo. And then we've got Kumbian, it's now called Queanbeyan. And then we've got Tugunung, it's now called Tugunung. And we've got Namaji, which was Namich. These are all clan groups. But one of the real special things about this area too is there wasn't just them. We had a lot of different tribal groups that come from all over, down the coast and other side of the mountains that were coming here. Down that side of the coast, we had the Yuin people coming up. They come up and a little bit of trade with us, bring up their seafood and seashells. To the south, we had the Ngarigo people. Our language is pretty much similar. Then the Wiradjuri, and then the Gudangara out towards Goulburn. So all them people, they all sort of shared this country too, to do that business that I was talking about. With the pathways, the Murrumbidgee is where the boys become men. Tibimbilla comes from the word Jibimbilla, means where boys become men. There was a lot of trade that went on. The mob from down the south coast would often bring up, like I said, their seashells and certain different types of rock types that we don't have up here. There might be a sharper tool or something like that, plus some food. They did bring oysters and mussels up, and they bring them up in the dilly bags. And along the river, they just kept dipping them in the river on their way up to keep them fresh. Then they trade with us guys up here for a bit of meat.
Since the coming of the new settlers in 1788, there have been many changes to the Australian landscape. Pastoralists, miners, and townsfolk have also changed the landscape of Ngunnawal country. Rivers and creeks have been dammed and diverted. Mountains have been blasted and recontoured. Hills and plains have been variously cleared and replanted. New plants and animals have been introduced, and others have become endangered or extinct. Many of the introduced plants and animals have no natural predators. They have adapted so well to their new environment that they have become feral and very invasive. Ngunnawal country is a vast area with a wide variety of terrains and environments. People use natural features such as the stars and significant landmarks to navigate their way across the land. The Birragai rocks were an important natural landmark for people making this journey. They followed river corridors, including those of the Shoalhaven, Murrumbidgee, Molonglo and other rivers. The river corridors provided a wide variety of flora and fauna as a readily available food source.
Bringing children to beautiful and important places helps them to connect to the land and to develop their sense of place. To successfully engage in any study of Ngunnawal culture and traditions, it is important to understand Ngunnawal land. Annually, Aboriginal people from Ngunnawal land and the surrounding lands came to Tidbinbilla and to other significant places in the Southern Alps, so they could meet together to discuss men and women's business, to trade, arrange marriages, make laws and hold ceremonies.
There's a real myth that people were sort of coming up here and only coming here for the bogong moss, but that's not true. They were coming here for ceremony and law, to be taught how to look after the landscape. And part of their journey, these people are coming from down the coast or from way out west. They're not just coming here chasing a moth, because that's not the only food source. They've got to go with the way the plants flower. Down on the bottom of the valley, the plant will flower at a certain time of the season. Doesn't necessarily flower up on top of the mountain. It'll flower later in the mountains. So they follow that food source up. So that's how they get themselves up higher and higher into the mountains. Once up there, you know, they do all their ceremony and stuff like that, and their journey back home is their journey where they light that fire. They start doing that burning. Because the rule of thumb is to stay on burnt country. And when I say burnt country, it's not like charcoal country, it's just country that's been burnt and looked after. Because if I go on land that hasn't been burnt and looked after, that's where bad things are likely to happen to me. I won't get food, I won't get water, and that's where the spirits are. That's in our dream time, our Lord, that's where they sit. Always stay on burnt country.
For the Ngunnawal, as for all Indigenous Australians, spirituality is more than religion. It is a deep and complex system of beliefs and practices that governs social interaction and the connection with the land. Whilst ceremonies were carried out at particular times and for specific purposes, spirituality was the very fibre of daily life. Just as care for the land and management of natural resources was seen to be everyone's responsibility, so too was the consumption and use of those resources. The way of life dictated that you didn't ever take more than you required for your immediate needs, and that you shared what you had with your community. By caring for the land, you are caring for your people and for your culture. Concepts of time are diametrically opposed for traditional Indigenous and for non-Indigenous Australians. For non-Indigenous Australians, time is something that can be measured, used and owned. It is a commodity that can be bought and sold. Indigenous Australians view time differently. Certainly it can be measured by day and night and marked by seasons, but it is not viewed as a commodity to be owned or sold. It is a continuum, from the beginning, the dreaming, through to the future, the dreaming. Time spent in meeting basic needs, in ceremony, in discussion, or telling stories is about the important things of life and therefore a manifestation of spiritual beliefs. Time is the dreaming.
With the pathways, the Murrumbidgee is where the boys become men, you know, it's all that sort of stuff. Tibimbilla comes from the word Jibimbilla, means where boys become men. Spiritually, you know, we have a lot of different beliefs, and one of our beliefs is the Dullaga, and he's like a big hairy man, big tall man, bigger than me, you know, and he sits up in the bush, and when the kids are mucking up, he comes and gets them, takes them with him. You never see the kids again. They live with him up in the bush.
vegetation the Aboriginal people encountered along the way provided a guide to seasonal variations in weather patterns. In good seasons there was plenty of blossom, fruit and seeds, which in turn attracted insects and animals. In harsher times food was not as abundant.
Just on the bottom of the bank too, over here you can see a fair bit of reeds growing up out of the water. But only a week ago, this water wasn't here. This is because of the rain.
Most typically, the Murrumbidgee River at the location of the Thawa Sandwash is a low-flow, sometimes braided river. It usually has exposed wide riparian plains. This footage was taken after the unseasonally heavy rains in February of 2010. Due to the changing climatic patterns of recent years, seeing the Murrumbidgee in full flow is becoming less frequent.
Just behind me you can see an island, and these islands are really good for fishing. What you can do is put some fish nets in there and divert the fish up through the island into that net, and then catch plenty of fish, to keep you going for a couple of days. As you see, you've got a bit of a mystery hole here. You can see no animals have been there digging it. But what's actually happened, if you look up on top of the hill, it's a really rocky hill. And what's happened is the water has trapped underneath the rock, found a seam on the rock, and kept travelling down. Hit the sand, had to come out somewhere. And this is where it's come out, straight out of the hole. When you see something like this in the rain, you'll see the water just bubbling over. Or sometimes it'll pour out. But it's really nice water. By paying attention to times like this when we've got full rain, it gives you a bit more knowledge about when we're in drought, how to find water, because that water hole's there and that rock's there and we've already identified it, so I can come back in dry times and get water. A really interesting thing with the ants nest, and trying to tell your season. So by looking at the ants nest, I can kind of give you a long-term forecast of what the weather's going to be like. See how they're starting to put a lot of twigs on there? See how the twigs are going on? So it's going to get cold. They're trying to insulate. Okay, so they're trying to warm it up. See all the black stuff starting to come on? Yeah. That's because they want the sunlight to get in there and warm it up. When they start putting the white stuff on, that's when it's hot. It's going to be hot. So they try and reflect the sun. So that's how the ants can tell you how to judge the weather. They're starting to build up. We're coming into winter. It's going to be a cold winter, see? Oh, yeah. See, they're starting to warm up. They've got all the beat this here. So it's like a mulch. You put your mulch on the garden, it keeps the garden bed warm. Yeah. That's what it's doing inside the nest. If you look up along the tree, see where it's been damaged? All that looks like it's a bit fluffy? What's going on there is there's birds. The birds are getting in and trying to attack it. And they're probably just trying to get some bugs out of it. So there might be a bug crawling up along the tree, underneath the bark. So they're getting in at it and getting the feed out of there. If you look at it carefully, you can see a fair bit of sap coming out of there as well. So that sap again would be good for using as a binder, for binding tools together and stuff like that. Just up on the hill above us, you can see on the tree there's a bit of a dead branch coming out. And that's like a dead mistletoe. On the right, it's only died not long ago, so it's a bit sort of fresh. But there's a lot of good medicine in that bush. But there's a lot of disease too. Sometimes if you let it go too far, all the trees will get covered in mistletoe. So you've got to be careful about how much you let it spread. So if you didn't want it to spread, you just light a fire, burn it out, then come back and then you'll have all your fresh mistletoe again. You won't have too much of it. So if you've got hundreds and thousands of trees, the best way to cure them is by fire.
So if you put fire on them, doesn't it burn all the leaves?
Yeah, but they come back. Well, after the rain, a few weeks after is a good time to bring back another burn in and just burn the country, burn all the old wood out, dead wood, to bring back the new wood. And within that soil, all that content, the old seed bank's there. weeds might be there now, but you burn it, the good stuff will come back, the old seed banks. They'll come back and pop their heads up again. You can see here, guys, that a lot of this country is being overtaken by noxious weeds. It's a real problem for us as land managers and Indigenous people. It takes away our food resources and all that sort of stuff. So some way we've got to think about how we get rid of these weeds rather than using, herbicides all the time. And that's one way of controlling them, but we need to look a little bit more about how fire and how our people, how they use fire to get rid of this sort of stuff. So we need to introduce that again. You can see the contrast from here down to there, the nice bush, you got the nice river, and then you got these ugly weeds sitting up here. But it's important to manage this landscape. Without that fire, you can't manage it. It's like pruning a garden. Well, as you can see, boys, there's a fair bit of caring for country going on. People are sort of becoming more aware of their environment, and they want to bring it back to its natural state. Rather than have these weeds here, they're planting all these trees in, and hopefully they'll bring back to their natural life cycle again and bring back what the river used to be. The biodiversity of the rivers and the plains meant there was plenty to eat. Fish, shellfish, kangaroos, emu, platypus, tubers, seeds, berries and fruits. Discussions about land management practices and the roles and the responsibilities dictated by the personal totems formed a significant part of men's business.
Men's business, women's business and group discussions were forums for serious discussions about the management and care of the land and the use of resources.
This wattle tree here, black wattle, it's really good for making spears, and I'm going to cut this one out and show you just how easy it is to do. Okay, so we just want to trim all the limbs off. So all we need to do now is just strip that back. The reason this is stripping so good is because it's been raining. So all the moisture's running up underneath the bark. Feel it. It's wet. Peel a bit off. You want to get the axe and just trim that bit off. So just peel that bark off. So as you can see, it's quite bent, but that helps with its aerodynamics. But the reason we want it bent is so that it gives it more of a target area. So as I launch that, it flexes and takes off and it spins around. So it actually wobbles, see? Like that, that's what it does in the air. And that makes the target bigger. So with the kangaroo, I've got more chances of hitting that kangaroo by having that crooked rather than straight. You see the concept of what I was trying to do. It's a woomer, it's a launcher. I would have held it in there, and then that would have been, like the power behind it. So it would have through the spear, launched it. What we've got here is a bit of stringy bark, and as you can see, we've used it to make our shelter, so we've got somewhere to sleep at night, but it's got many other purposes, you know. What we can do is I'll demonstrate how you can make a piece of rope out of it. What we do is we just start up the top, okay, pull a bit of bark off, strip it off, just break it down, okay. Now what I need to do, sometimes you need a bit of water when you do this because if it's really dry. So how I start, I just fold it over. So what I do is I twist forward and I come back. Okay, so I grab the top one, twist forward, come back. Twist forward, come back. So I'll keep going really quick. We've made a bit of rope out of a piece of bark. Feel how strong, want to feel how strong it is? And I'll just tie it off so it doesn't come undone. There you go. Okay, you reckon you can try that, what I just showed you? Come over this way. Okay. Takes a lot of practice. So remember to twist forward, then come back. There's a bit for you. There's other techniques of doing it. Some people are really good at it. They can roll it on their leg, but I haven't mastered that yet.
Imagine doing this is like cutting my hair.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's pretty much like a plait. That's a skill you have for the rest of your life now. One day you might be stuck in the bush, camping, and someone says, "How am I going to tie my tent up? I forgot to bring the rope." Just make a bit of rope.
In today's times, would we be able to use this for something?
Yeah, of course you would. If you're stuck out in the bush with your car or something like that and you need to tow something, you just make a bit of rope like this, look.
So Dad, is this rope really strong enough to tow a car?
Yeah, easy. If I double that over, okay, I can make it twice as strong. See, so I've doubled that over now. Now I've got a heap stronger rope.
Dad, they always say that we sit around doing nothing, just sitting around and looking around and stuff.
Well, you
That's
can
not
see.
true.
Yeah, well, you can see that's not true by what we're doing here today. It takes us a long time to get ourselves ready to do what we have to do to survive. As you can see, you know, just the little things that we're doing here today, it takes a lot of time, you know, and it's not something that you sort of just do in a couple of minutes and then you're right, spend the rest of the day laying around. A lot of work goes into going out and doing your hunting and doing your fishing or just grinding your food up for the night. So as you can see, people would have been sitting around all day preparing their food and getting themselves ready. This is just a bit of ochre. We're going to grind some up and show everybody how we sort of use it. Let's see if I can get in there. There's one way of doing it. We can break it off. Let's have a go at breaking that up a little bit. See what we can get. Alright. Use this one. Now we have some nice fine powder. All we need to do is add a little bit of water. You've got to be careful about how much you add. You don't want to wet it too much. See there, now we can make a little bit of paint. This was just applied in, you know, to do decoration for ceremony and things like that. Other styles of painting represent where you come from.
Dad, how many other colours and what colours are they?
There's a heap of different colours. You can make different colours by blending the colours, but you know, some of the main ones that we use are white, the red and the yellow. They're the main ones that you see, and maybe some brown, dark brown. A lot of the time too, when they use this on their rock art, they mix a bit of oil with it. So they might get some oil from the goanna and put that in there, and then it makes it bind a bit stronger on the wall, so it lasts for thousands of years. That's why our rock art's there for so long.
Does it have to be goanna oil, or could it be like emu or kangaroo oil?
Yeah, it could be the blood from the kangaroo, so it's got its own oil in it. It could be the oil from the goanna or the oil from the emu. And they may not even use water to mix it. They may just use that blood or that oil and then bind it all together.
Did they just use only kangaroo blood, or was there like some of their own blood from ceremonies?
Yeah. Sometimes they get the blood from when they're doing their law. So when they're getting cut across, they'd use that blood within the stone so that it represents who they are, where they come from. So that image is always there and strong. So what I've got here is just a stone, which I'm going to try and make an axe out of, and a stone axe head. So I need to start. You can see I've already flaked off one piece. I'm going to show you how I flake off the rest of it. So just mind your eyes. Something might come up. The reason I'm doing this is to take away the excess. Okay, so you can see what's coming off. That point where I strike down and strike that point, this is coming at 2,500 kilometres an hour. It's hard to imagine, but that short point to that short point, that's pretty quick. Now what I need to do is to give that a bit of a sharper edge, is to grind it. Okay, so what we have here is just another piece of stone, which I'll use. I'll probably start here, start a new groove. So just so you can see there, I'm just trying to grind that. See how that's gone smooth already? And you see it's a fair bit of work. You keep coming to add the water. That's all, so just a little drop. As you can see here, there's 3 of us doing it. It's important that we do this together so that we share the skills. Yeah, you could use that as an ochre as well. I'll just fill that in and I can show you how it might have been worked, you know, used. Plane was designed around a boomerang. Modern plane. That's where they got their aerodynamics from. Have a look at your $50 note, the black man on there. He invented the helicopter. Get really sharp. We're just trying to grind this down to give it a nice smooth sharp edge rather than a brittle edge. Something like this would take, I don't know, between half an hour and an hour to make up, and quite a valuable tool to have with you. They may carry this around for a couple of years before they move on to another one, but just very valuable. You know, there would have been stone tool makers, like in your tradition you have butchers and bakers. We had our rock makers and our wood makers. That would then be their pathway into law and culture. You know, they'd be regarded as a valuable person within their community. So something like that could be used as like for making the boomerang, because it's a big lumpy one. They just got to go whack, 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 and they can take off lots at a time. As you can see, I'm shaping it up so it's pointing that way more, so it's easy to pull that way. You can see here, boys, the wombat's been here. You see how he's been digging? He's flicking all the sand up onto this. So you can see that he's a wombat. So there's another sign of looking at the bush and making sure that you observe what's around you. Because quite easily walk past that without paying any attention to it. You know, so if I was looking for a wombat to eat tonight, I'll be looking for that. And then close by, there's got to be a wombat's nest. That's it.
So would that be a wombat poo?
That's his poo. You see his poo? It's pretty fresh. That's probably only last night. These are pretty fresh. So I'd say that was last night. You see the bugs are already starting to get into it? You can see after a little bit of tracking, you can find the wombat's nest. Or hole, where he's living. You see down there, see the claw marks? It's fresh as. So he's sitting in there now.
Sometimes when you're going out with dogs and that around wombat holes, they'll crawl up in there while the wombat's in, and while the wombat's in and the dog gets in, the wombat will squash the dog against the banks up inside the hole.
And kill the dog.
Yeah.
So never let your dog go up a wombat hole. He won't come back out. A good simple way to hunt wombat is you don't want to go crawling up in there because it's the same as a dog, he'll squash you. Okay, so you want to just get some grass around, light it down here, come down, sneak down, make sure he's not going to come out at you. Put your grass down, light it up, you know, with your fire, and then blow the smoke in. And as the smoke goes in, you get someone to watch over there where the other hole is, and the wombat will come running out of that hole because he doesn't like the smoke. And what they done in the old days is made nets out of stringy bark. So they rolled the nets up out of the stringy bark, made rope, made the nets, and that's how they caught them. And if you look around, boys, you can see that he's marking his territory just with his poo. So he's marking it. You can see his track going down that way, and just up on top of the hill where we've seen the fresh diggings before. So this is his space. They don't like other wombats coming in, they fight over territory. So he's making it clear that this is his space by just making markings like that. As you can see over here, it's pretty open grassland. And for our people, that's really good for hunting on. In the mornings and the afternoons, late, they come down and have a bit of a drink.
If they have a drink, would you sneak down in here and use your bar and arrow, and when they're drinking, you got
or a spear, eh? Get a spear, or one of the clubs that we were talking about earlier. We can sneak up and catch him down on the river, because he's got to come up the bank or go across the river. From here too, you know, you can talk about our men's business. From this side here, we can look out to Gibraltar Rocks and see a clear pathway of where our young men would have went and done their initiation and got taught their law. So at some stage, some young kid may have sat up here with a boss like an elder as well and got told the same story about that's where you go and that's where you're going to learn the new law. Some of them laws, you know, they're complicated, but they're not that complicated. You just got to listen and understand. Based on their observations along the way, men discussed how to balance animal and plant populations so that a supply of food was always maintained. One of the things that they do when they take the boys up there is they teach them about different totems and things like that. So one of the totems they may teach them is about the kangaroo and their responsibility as looking after that kangaroo in the bush and how that kangaroo can survive. Another group of boys they may teach about the grass parrot, you know, and they learn the same thing about everything that a grass parrot needs, and they become providers for that grass parrot. So somewhere down the line, them two stories interact with each other, you know. One day the kangaroos, they might be eating too much grass. So the grass parrot boys, they got to go up to the kangaroo fellas and say, listen, your kangaroos are eating too much grass, our parrots have got nowhere to live, and all that sort of stuff, they've got no seed to eat. So then it's the responsibility of the kangaroo men to go out and hunt down the kangaroos and take out enough kangaroos so that the grass parrots can live. That's how we look after country. After they do their big hunt, they go out and they teach the younger boys how to hunt. All them skills are getting passed down. They come back and they do a corroboree about that day, and just to show the people back at the camp about how they caught them kangaroos and There may have been a funny story how one of the blokes got attacked by the kangaroo chasing him. So they put that in their dance, you know. Make sure they share that story. Have a laugh. That's the most important thing. That's how we look after country. You can look at that and look at all the other stories and different relationships that other animals may have with each other. You know, the eagle and the crow. The stories are about them fellas, you know. But you've got to sit down and listen to the elders and learn those stories.
Basket weaving was considered to be women's business. The skills of basket weaving were employed as women sat in groups, chatting, socialising, sharing knowledge and skills, and passing on traditions. Basket weaving required knowledge of which plants to select from, which had the most flexible and durable fibres. It also required knowledge of how to make dyes, the appropriate use of natural objects for decoration. Importantly, it required a sense of design and great dexterity.
Where we're sitting now is underneath the black wattle trees, and what we've done, we've collected some seeds and we're going to grind those up, because in traditional times, back in our people, they used to grind this seed up and then they'd make flour out of it. Then that flour, they'd bake it up, make some bread, then everybody could eat some bread. So the way they done it, this is women usually sort of done this sort of job, is they just get the seed, give it a bit of a press, okay, like that, grind it up, and then just give it a bit of a rub. So if you want to have a go, just try and crush a couple of them seeds and see how you go with it. Push it hard and give it a bit of a roll. If you want, you can just give it a bit of a crack too, you know, because it won't go. Then once you've done that, ground it all up, all you do is mix a little bit of water with it so it turns into a dough. Then you chuck it in the fire in the coal and cook it up.
Can I taste one?
Yeah, you can taste some if you like. Try and taste some of the powdered stuff. Go,
It tastes nice.
Yeah?
Uncle Adrian, how much seeds does it take to make a handful of dough?
Yeah, you'd need a big handful like this. So it's a fair bit of seed to make a small little piece of dough. Just on the bottom of the bank too, over here, you can see a fair bit of reeds growing up out of the water. But only a week ago, this water wasn't here. This is because of the rain. But that kabungi is real good tucker too. You can eat that as well. Down the bottom of it, there's a white bit of fleshy sort of stuff, and you can eat that. And women use that for some medicines as well. Boys, this is the tea tree. This is really good for medicines and stuff like that. So if you've got a cold, burn a little bit of it in the fire and breathe it in. And it makes your sinuses come back real nice and clean. You'll see these days in the shops there's a lot of tea tree in the medicines that you buy and the creams and all that sort of stuff. And it comes from this here.
It smells nice.
It smells really good. Just get a bit of it, break a bit off, and rub it in your hands. Cleans your nostrils out straight away, doesn't it? Nice and fresh.
The Ngunnawal people observed the natural phenomenon around them and based their learning on primary evidence. They were in tune with the natural cycles and systems of the seasons, the plants and animals, and the land on which they lived. Children learn by listening to these stories, watching or participating in the corroboree, the songs, dance, and ceremonies. They learned by following the most fundamental of scientific principles: stop, look, listen, and learn.
I don't mind listening and watching and stuff and learning how they used to do it back in the day.
Yeah, it's important that you listen so that, you know, when you're a man, you can pass on that culture too.
Yeah, this is deadly, sitting around listening to Dad, learning new stuff.
Always learn, eh?
Aboriginal land management is based on the traditional knowledge and practices built on deep understanding of the relationships between natural systems and cycles within the landscape. Today, scientists are rediscovering just how important that understanding of natural cycles and maintaining population balance is for protecting the environment.
Today, scientists are understanding the depth and understanding that our people had of natural cycles and systems.
They are recognising and valuing traditional land management practices by incorporating them into modern scientific methods. This is resulting in more sustainable land management practices.
Today, scientists are using Ngunnawal technology in everyday science.
As the students walk along the riverbeds and explore the geographic features and biodiversity, they will be reconnecting with the traditional lands and the culture of the Ngunnawal people and recognising the importance of preserving the natural environment.
Look at that rock over there.
Yeah, that's Gibraltar, eh?
Is it?
Well, that's why we're here.
Wow.